welcome to beautiful Richmond, Virginia for the Indy Pro 2000 Series week of the Indy Pro 2000 action. And it's going to be on a short oval here at night in Virginia. Lots of things to be excited about at these Indy Pro 2000 machines. Are always great to watch on an oval, whether it's Iowa, here at Richmond, or any small oval. They are a treat to watch. My name is Jonathan Rook. I'm with Tom Davis, Hugo Louis, our producer, and then cam was provided by TrackCams22.com. And live timing at Timing 2. The 3/4 mile speedway here at Richmond. The start-finish line not center, a little bit further back. 72-degree night and 73 degrees the track temp. Going to be a nice, cool night down here in Virginia. A nice one to watch. Total of 23 registered in the session. Qualifying still underway. And here are the championship standings. Thomas Torp is on top right now. Ton Jansen and Greg Seitz not too far behind with 1,100 points each. Thomas Zeiger and Nikita Luxton very, very close with 11,000 points. About 50 points behind is Ann Medina. Nidis Van Handel, 991. Zander Wood, Niels Eisk, and Frank Nguyen with 921. Just 300 points separating the top 10. This appears to be the starting grid as qualifying wraps up. Oscar Walsh and Andreas Eek to line up 1, 2, Adam Wright and Aaron Roofs line up 3 and 4. 5 and 6, Jason Owens and David Rodriguez. Frank Nguyen and Ken Zagika from Florida line up in 8th. Matt Hollowell, Thomas Zeiger, Kevin Smalley, and Thomas Torp round out 9, 10, 11, and 12. Martin Booman, Grant Molnar, Evan Adams, Brian Shriver, 13 through 16. Danny Hogdorn, Timothy McFarland from Indiana from the UK, and Steve Cameron in 20th. Alec West, Brandon Stacey, and Mike Harris round out the field of 23 drivers. Now I get a chance to bring in Tom Davis. And Tom, you guys don't have much oval racing over in the UK. How excited you are to see this one in action?
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. I was saying just before we came on air, actually, we had, I believe it was Rockingham built, and it never really took off on the oval circuit, despite the track itself being really good on touring cars with the infield layout. So I've seen oval racing maybe once in person when I was about 5 years old, and the EU Sports broadcaster is great, so I'm really looking forward to it.
It should be a fun one here today. If those of you who have been in the Indy Pro community, I was actually in this race 2 seasons ago, spun myself out trying to avoid a crash and ended up finishing a lap down. So this race here, especially here at Richmond, can get chaotic. It's a bit of a weird track, 3/4 of a mile. So it's going to be really difficult, and the draft is going to be huge.
The draft's always huge, isn't it, in oval racing as a whole? It's one of the, if not the main strategy for getting the overtake done. Obviously not huge braking zones on a track which is designed to flow like a short oval is, so you want to try and get that overspeed in the draft, or the slipstream as we call it on the side of the pond, and hope that can just tow you past the guy.
Cars are rolling. It's going to be a total of 90 laps here at this night race at Richmond, and there will be pit stops. You can't do the full race on fuel. However, there are full course cautions in case of any large accidents, and with this huge field of 23, it's going to be a little bit nip and tuck as the pace car rounds 3 and 4. We're looking back at Andreas Silk, Olsen Walsh, Thomas Torp, and Frank Nguyen right now, and it's going to be a bit chaotic here at the start. Only a handful of guys didn't qualify at the rear. So pace car will make its way around one more time. What are you looking forward to for this one?
I would say nice clean racing, but as you mentioned, it's very common for incidents to occur, which is why we have the full course cautions available. However, I am hoping for a good battle at the front. You know, Thomas Torp, he's right up there in the championship order, and it'd be great to see some daring moves pulled off by him, as we know that he can.
And I'm going to be interested to see if there's going to be any different lines. Usually at these short ovals, we see it like Phoenix and even Iowa for like the Indy car. It's always that bottom line that's really, really strong. But the Pro Mazdas, they're a bit lighter. They don't have as much speed. So it's going to be interesting to see how this race plays out as the pace car pulls off. And we are going to go racing. And that number 2 of Ake just gone immediately, clears the 13 behind him. And now they pour down into the first corner. Side by side we go. Elk gets away, but that 13 car is looking underneath to try and make a move. Pulls back in line beside the 1. Torp trying to get around Walsh. Not really anything doing right there. Almost into the wall. A few of these guys, they're hanging tough right now. A few guys spaced out towards the rear of the field. 12 of Torp looking to the inside of Walsh. Or Eke, sorry. Or Walsh is the leader, excuse me, so my timing is completely wrong. So Walsh has gotten the lead, Eke is under attack from the number 12 of Wright in that French-colored car, the light blue and the red. As it's all single filed out until we get back here. This is a bit of a mess. It's an Owens on the high side, or on the low side, excuse me, trying to find a way around. Look, nothing doing right now. And he's looking for a way to slot up, but it's going to be so tight.
He's
down
not
to the
careful.
inside.
Sorry, if he's not careful, he's going to get caught out here. He's stuck it out on the outside for quite a few rotations now. And that number 4 car, Frank, is looking really racy, just trying to cut underneath these guys as soon as there's a mistake.
Yeah, and the problem is, too, riding that high line, you're going to burn up more of that tire rubber, and you really want to conserve it, especially if there are pit stops and we go green all the way, as right now it's been very, very clean. Apart from that little incident, Rodriguez getting up into Owens a little bit, and down to the inside comes Frank Nguyen. To go side by side down the front stretch, and now looks into turn 1. Not a lot of braking here at Richmond. It's very, very, you have to lift on the throttle and be very careful with it, which is part of the reason that A-car of Owens has been able to hang tough up there.
It has been impressive that he's managed to hang it out, and in terms of the steering as well, you almost want to follow the car, let the banking turn the car in, and then give it the steering input. It's completely different in terms of technique to road racing or traditional racing as we see here in Europe, which is why you sometimes see different guys at the top.
Nguyen's still trying to find a way around Owens. Owens holding a good defensive line. Frank Oliver wants to join this conversation. We're going down into turn 1. You can see from his point of view what the group is in front. And again, it's right now kind of a stalemate. Everyone's kind of in this little draft lane, not too impatient, but at some point you're going to have to want to make moves to get up through the field. Walsh already has a 2-second gap from first to second.
That's impressive. In a format where slipstream and the draft is so important, if you can open up that gap, then it might give you the opportunity to get away and have the people behind you just kind of consumed in their own little battle, which I'm sure is what he's trying.
And again, an excellent start through that number 2 machine. Then we kind of single file out and everyone kind of makes their move. Owens started towards the front, he's fallen a little bit, but now everyone's going to get comfortable and everyone's going to ride around, try and see where any of the fast lines are. And everyone seems glued to the bottom right now. No one really trying to go to the high side.
No, and I'm sure that'll come. Like you mentioned, it does wear out on the tires as we ride on board with Aaron Roofs here. There's not an opportunity. He's, put simply, not close enough to the car ahead to get a massive tow, so he's forced to follow until there's an error. As soon as one of these guys does make an error, however, it'll chain reaction all the way down the field, because then they'll start to battle. They'll be side by side. That brings the car behind him.
Yellow flag and a massive accident. That's coming on the exit of turn 3, and this was almost right in front of the leader as well. RaceSpotTV replay coming at you. Jack Mace. Big aggressive move right there, and just nowhere for these two to go. Wow, that damage model looks kind of pretty. Usually I don't admire a crash like that, but that was Mace and Torp that I believe got into it. Torp started pretty far back in the field, and yeah, just there was a gap there that did not exist for that number 17, and hard into the outside wall. There it goes. So our first full course caution, and he had a big slipstream here. He had momentum, but he just ran out of track to try and make a move.
It almost looked as if he wanted to dip a wheel onto the apron to create the gap, but in the draft didn't have the downforce off the front wing potentially, or just simply had more speed than they were anticipating. Couldn't pull the car down into that minor space. As a result, well, we saw the contact. It was considerable.
And that new damage model kind of a thing of beauty. Again, I don't like to admire crashes, but one like that was kind of pretty. Only one taker on pit road appears to be Timothy McFarland, and we will have an extended yellow due to a few lap cars. Steve Cameron and Mike Harris both went a lap down, and this is actually a relief for Olsen Walsh because he had already caught the tail end of the field. I was about to mention it before that caution came out.
Yeah, catching the back of the field, you're then in amongst the slower cars, and obviously you'd be able to overtake them because you're at the front, you're leading the race, you're the quickest guy out there. But that doesn't mean you're not going to get caught up in somebody else's accident, so giving him another chance to close up and have the clean track ahead, I'm sure he'll be quite happy with that, assuming he can make as good a getaway as he did the first time around.
And you mentioned not getting caught up in those other accidents. You know, Walsh was going into 3 and 4 when that accident was taking place. So it was really close. 2 or 3 laps later, and maybe Arlita would have been caught up in the accident. But we'll right on board the pace car right now. Calm. It's Walsh, Eek, Wright, Roofs, and Rodriguez hold the top 5. Jason Owens, that has had fantastic defensive driving, in 6th. Frank Newen in 7th. Matt Hollabo fall back to 8th. Thomas Zeiger and Kevin Smalley currently the top 10 as we ride around on the pace car. It's a little too early for pit stops. One pit stop is going to be needed depending on strategy. Say the max I think these cars can go is about 60 laps, so you're going to have to wait around lap 30 even, but again, you'd rather maybe wait for a caution instead of pitting under green. You can lose so much time under green.
That's it, isn't it? It's all about delta, and the delta is based upon your speed relative to the guys around you. So if the guys around you are going slower under that caution, then you're going to lose less time in the pit stop, and losing less time is always going to be good. It is a race. It is essentially a time trial with other cars on the track. What I'm finding quite interesting under this caution period is the lack of weaving. None of these guys are trying to keep temperature in the tires. Is it to do with tire wear, or are the tires just happier in the cooler temperature range?
For a track like this, I think we're running a lot more downforce instead of relying really on the tire wear, so they're not really relying much on the tires, especially since it is a very nice and, I wouldn't say cool, but it's a really nice night in Richmond, in virtual Richmond, Virginia. It's 72 degrees, you know, not really much marbles as well, as most of them are going to be all the way up in that higher groove, so there's really no real need to clean the tires either. So I think it's just a matter of downforce. Those guys that are weaving are going to be relying on the tire wear, which is something that you pointed out that we should watch later on in the run. If we get a long green flag run, whose tires wear out first, and if guys are going to have to start lifting coming out of these corners.
You've been talking about the temperature. Just did a little check to make sure, because you've been referring to it as cool, obviously, and you're from a much hotter part of the world than me, so I had a little check. For anybody who uses European money as such, that's around about 22 degrees Celsius, as we are green to go racing once again.
And Walsh again is just gone, and the lap car of the 20 was actually in the way there of Andreas Elk. The lap cars do not get cycled to the rear of the field on the restarts. This is going to be a massive issue for those guys further back in the field. Wright, Roofs, you guys all trying to find advantage. Looks like Wright got a little high. Roofs down to the inside as they're going to be side by side across the line. And now this A car was going on the offense after being fantastic on the defense in that first run, is looking for a run on Rodriguez. Rodriguez gets a little bit high, has to get out of it, and that leaves him vulnerable to the car behind, but he runs out of straightaway. Again, these straightaways are so short. You can only get so much of a run. You have to be really close and really on it. As that lapped car pick really helping Olsen Walsh. He has a 1.3 second lead already over Andreas Eek, but Eek is all by himself in second. No pressure from behind. He can begin to try and chase him down.
He can certainly try, but there's no real pressure on Ocean yet. It's a case of if he runs his lines correctly, as he did the first time around, he'll be all good until he catches the back of the field. For Andreas Elk then, or Eek, sorry, it is a case of just wait until he hits the back of the field and hope that the traffic goes your way.
The 20 on the high side, that's Stephen Cameron, who went a lap down early. That's getting passed right there as we get this beautiful camera radio as we see the leaders go on by the draft line, starting to sort themselves out, everyone kind of calming down a little bit. And again, back here, this is Martin Booman and Evan Adams. Booman was a one that we watched a lot 2 weeks ago at Interlagos. He's currently back here in 12th, under attack from Evan Adams from Illinois. Adams is really, really close, hoping that lap car would probably disturb him a little bit, but now he's got a huge draft as they head down into turn 3. Adam's going to be braver here on the throttle. And Boomin hanging up tough on the outside. It's really nice to see that outside line work, but it's so difficult to get the overtaking done as now he's clear and able to take the position.
He'll have a bit more speed though, and he tucked in at a perfect spot to try and get a draft. So it's all about the run through there. He's actually just gone a little bit deeper than he would have wanted to. Potentially that'll have lost him the draft on the exit, potentially giving the leading car in this battle a chance to get away.
Yeah, Adam's able to gap a little bit. If you look back over here, here's the 6 and the 4. Frank Nguyen and David Rodriguez. One from Canada, one from Florida. Two opposite ends of North America. A little bit of sparks flying there as Nguyen gets up really close to that wall, trying to maximize as much apex and speed out of the corner. Nguyen getting a little loose, and we have a spinner. Danny Hogdorm in the black and silver Red Bull machine has spun. And we'll wait to see where it is. We're riding with the 1, and then looks like he just lost it on the entrance to 3. Very similar to where I lost it a few seasons ago. Actually, he's slow. I'm wondering if he has an issue.
Crabbing. There's definite crabbing there. I think he's already had a touch with a wall that's maybe broken the suspension or something on the steering. That car was not driving correctly or in a straight line at all.
Nah, it must have been with that outside wall. You can see these cars have been getting really, really close to it in these last few laps as the tires have started to wear down. You know, it's going to be more touch and go through the corners, a little bit more gentle on the throttle. And this is where we can see some comers and goers, some people who've set up for these late runs, as Jason Owens is getting closer and closer to Adam Wright. Wright was in 3rd, lost it to Aaron Roof, so now he's going to be under attack from Jason Owens here in a few moments' time. But everything's going to calm down now. We've spaced out a little bit. Everyone's driving pretty well and pretty respectfully.
Exactly. We had that period, there was a couple of mistakes that set a couple people off, and now we're just waiting for the next period of action. There it is, there's the touch with a wall. I think he might have just gotten away with that, actually, but he's actually stayed a little bit wide now. He's carried the speed, so that'll be a nerve-wracking moment as now the overtake tries to come in this little battle. 12 hanging it out around the outside, but Jason Owens still is going to have the preferred shorter line. He's taken a very tight entry into this turn, however, but he's got the job done, carrying the speed lovely. Now it's all about the draft. Can Adam Wright fight back?
Owens looking in his mirror, lets off a little bit more on the throttle, but he gets such a good exit out of the corner, and he's able to gap Adam Wright and David Rodriguez. Unable to really make anything out of this. As you mentioned, he tagged the wall out of 4. However, he is closing. You can see back from the gearbox of that number 8 machine, these 4 cars are still right underneath the blanket of each other. And there's lap traffic again. You can see the 20 of Stephen Cameron already being lapped again, and the leader has caught the end of the field. It's not going to be long until more and more cars go a lap down.
Tell you what, you thought endurance racing was confusing in terms of who's the leader. Imagine you just turned up, started watching this window time screen, you'd have no idea. That is wonderful, however, from Stephen Cameron. He's been very respectful there and getting out of the way, and he's done it without losing too much time as well, so credit where credit's due. He's very, very good at what he's doing, and it's good that he's not really disturbed this front battle at all, as we ride on board with Frank Nguyen. He's chasing down David Rodriguez still, but no opportunity presenting itself yet.
Now, the lap car would have been nice as a pick, but now with that out of the way, it's just a straight-on one-on-one dogfight until we get to pit stops. Again, these cars can do 64 laps of fuel, so it is possible to come on pit road now and get it done, but you go, there's a loose car right there, but you will go a lap down as it's a lap car. I believe that's Braden Stacy all the way up into the wall right there, the number 22. And again, one of these things about these oval racing, yep, it is the number 22 of Braden Stacy. Now he's going to come under fire for position from David Cameron. One of these things about the oval racing here in the Pro Mazda is that it's using the road license, so experience compared to what it should be on the road does vary. That will change next season. iRacing did announce that today. But it's going to be interesting, you know, moving through this race, who's the most experienced on these ovals.
I agree. There will be drivers here who do the oval because it's in this series and for no other reason. You combine that with the fact that there'll be drivers here who love the oval and they joined it for the oval part of the series. It does create a little bit of a situation. As here we see Frank Nguyen. He might have the opportunity on Rodriguez this time. Rodriguez just about covers off the line, however. I'm sure Nguyen will have to have gotten out the throttle more than he wanted. And still, the number 6 car holds the lead in this particular battle. It's a sterling defense, you gotta say. He's not put a foot wrong yet.
Now, what Frank Nguyen is probably getting frustrated is that 8 car has gotten a little bit smaller and smaller, and there is more and more lap traffic, and that was probably Nguyen's closest opportunity he's had to see Rodriguez drifting up a little bit higher and then taking a little bit of a later apex. So again, as the race evolves, the run changes, the line changes, and there's another lap car there getting out of the way. It looks like the 16 machine of Grant Mulhor getting out of the way. And again, lap traffic does present itself opportunities, but it could be trouble. One of these guys having an issue up front could start a huge accident.
It could. It doesn't even have to be one of the guys up front on the timing screen because of how put together this field is as we've gone a long way into this green flag period. As you said, the traffic's going to have a huge part. Rodriguez is going to go down the inside. That'll make his line on the corner a little bit more shallow, and that gives Frank Nguyen a run. Is he close enough to try and move? I don't quite think so. So once again, he's got to wait, but he's doing a good job of being patient. I think a lot of drivers would have tried something a little bit silly by now.
One person who is loving the lap traffic is Matt Harlow. We haven't really mentioned much, is starting to come closer to this fight as, again, lap traffic has condensed this top group. As Harlow, there's a car in between him and right now. He's going to go to the inside. Looks like the number 15. That's Timothy McFarland, who did pit underneath that last caution, which I don't know if that's going to be key or not later on. He'll be able to short fill, I guess, but he's still not going to be able to make it to the end on fuel, as we're now halfway. Olsen Walsh has led every single lap, and Andreas Eek is 4 seconds behind. Aaron Roos 5 behind that, and Jason Owens 6 behind Walsh, as Walsh is just gone. He has the furthest gap of anyone to a position on the track with 4 seconds ahead. Everyone else is kind of spread out by at least a second or less.
You mentioned that early stop. Maybe it was a little bit of a hedge in terms of hoping there was another couple cautions, because if you can coast under the safety car, then maybe you could make it to the end. You know, you do 15 laps where you're not using much fuel, then he's talking. So it might have been a gamble based off the fact that he doesn't think he can win the race on pure pace, but he might have been able to get it with a touch of luck on his side.
Well, the problem for Timothy is that there is no free pass, there is no wave around unless all the leaders do pit. So getting back in the lead lap, especially in the Pro Mazda group, is a challenge, as Frank Nguyen has gotten closer and closer to David Rodriguez, but there's just been no way for him to get around. And the other thing as well, following in the corners, it's really, really hard. You can lose a bit of that air on that front wing, and you can go up towards the wall, and we've seen that a couple times already, guys getting really friendly with those outside walls. So it's just going to be a matter of setting this up, really.
It is. You can be intelligent with your touch on the wall, however. You can shorten the angle of it and change the way you're touching it so you more just kind of glide into it as opposed to really smacking it, as we've seen, as I believe would have caused that suspension damage on the pink, that's not correct, silver, black, Red Bull car. So, you know, if you're at the top, a touch from the wall isn't the end of the world, but anyway, it's going to cross your time no matter how you hit it. Frank again getting very close. He's now trying that slightly more flowing line, but it's not really making much of a difference.
I think both these drivers are trying something, as unfortunately Adam Wright has been caught by both of them in this fight. Jason Owens has left Wright a little bit behind. There's still about a less than a second gap, but Rodriguez can smell a position and he can smell a top 5 finish, and he wants to get it from that 12 machine. The 4 has to fall back a little bit. It's just a matter of timing out your move right now, but again, there may be a pit stop. There may still need to be fuel, and we're not done with this race. And Frank Nguyen is going to be really, really close this time by. He's not going to be able to pull out again, as they're going to head down the front straightaway, and maybe Rodriguez will break the draft, and he thinks about it. He looks to the inside a little bit as there's 2 lap cars fighting ahead of him. It looks like that's going to be Bowman and McFarland? Yes, that is Bowman and McFarland right ahead of these 3 fighting for position. And Bowman gets a little bit wide in the 9, and the 12 of Adam Wright goes underneath, and this is a perfect opportunity to gain positions as Rodriguez and Nguyen now go down into 1. Bowman on the outside. Again, he is a lap down. He was fighting ahead, I believe, with actually Evan Adams, excuse me, not Timothy McFarland. McFarland was further behind. But that was an opportunity that presented itself there, but there was just no way for guys to get a move done.
Rodriguez navigated it very well, put simply. I think a lot of lesser drivers could have left themselves vulnerable in that spot, but he chose the perfect time to scythe his way through the inside, didn't cost himself any speed down to the next straightaway. As a result, although Nguyen maybe closed up temporarily, we're sat in the same spot we are before. I just want to mention, we've been talking about tyres as the limiting resource, say, that might come into play. Well, Frank's run a lot of this race in the slipstream. If he could just lift a little bit earlier due to carrying this a bit more speed into the corners, there's a chance that he could fuel for, say, one less lap. And not only does that make his car lighter, but it also means he's fueling for less time in the pit stop, which could come into play given how close these guys are running.
I'm surprised to have no pit stop takers yet, but I'm assuming that's because everyone's just kind of crossing their fingers for a yellow flag and making it easy. And Frank Nguyen, this is probably the closest he's ever been right now to David Rodriguez. He's going to look down the inside of turn one. Nope, Rodriguez goes up, cuts the door off, but Nguyen again is really, really close. Rodriguez has to slip up a little bit, and Nguyen has to take evasive action. Down the inside comes the 4 machine from Canada, Frank Nguyen, and they're still side by side. Rodriguez hanging tough on the outside. Matt Harbour would like to join this conversation. He's not too far behind, and Frank Nguyen, after a lap upon lap of following that 6 machine, has gotten around, but it's not over yet. Rodriguez looks down the inside. Nguyen gives him the space. Good clean action between these two. Nguyen goes wide as David Rodriguez, unable to clear still, now is able to clear it as he heads down into turn 1, and we've hit reset. We're back where we were a couple laps ago.
That'll be frustrating for Nguyen. I actually think he gave him a little bit too much space there. He could have been a bit more brave, I reckon, or a bit more hard, yet still fair with the racing. Just said, you know what, if you want the gap, there is a gap, but it's only big enough for your car. Instead, he gave him, what, enough space for 3-4 cars to fit down the inside? I think a lot of drivers could have been harsher.
Into the wall goes the 20, and that has to check up the number 8 as Wright goes back to the inside of Jason Owens. And now Rodriguez and Nguyen, that fight's going to be reignited. Lap traffic playing key here, stacking up our midfield. The 12 and the 8 side by side. Wright goes into the 4th position. Nguyen is side by side again with Rodriguez as they head down into turn 3. The Canadian looks brave on the throttle, and he's going to be able to make it stick. Rodriguez is hanging tough on the outside. Very respectful from Frank Nguyen. You mentioned it already. And I think he was a bit surprised about that move earlier, and that's why he gave him so much room. As now Owens goes back around Wright. Wright did not stay in front of that number 8 car for long. And the 12 is again very, very close. Nguyen getting clear of the 8, is able to finally do it out of turn 4. But now Matt Harbaugh, like I said, he wanted to join the conversation. Well, he's joined. He's sending a message right now, and he's trying to pass Rodriguez. He is in the inside of Rodriguez already. They're side by side down the back straightaway. There's a 12 car trying to get a draft to get back around Jason Owens. Rodriguez, again, brilliant defensive job, able to keep Matt Harbaugh behind. No, Matt Harbaugh has actually disappeared. Where has Matt Harbaugh gone? Unless I'm just mistaking that. Oh no, that is Matt Harbaugh. Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm pretty sure that is Matt still following. It was fantastic from Rodriguez, however. He just swept across the nose of Harbaugh, essentially said, I'm taking this line, you can back out of it. It was far more aggressive than we've seen anything so far in this race, because I think David R. Rodriguez knew how important it was that he didn't drop another place. He's still got a chance at fighting back when the 2 ahead of him squabble, but if he's back of this group, he's not going to gain any more positions.
I apologize. There was a car that's very, very similar to Matt Harbaugh's paint that I thought in this fight as well, or a lap car that was up here, but I think he's falling way behind us. Now Nguyen is going to look to attack Adam Wright. Frank Nguyen has been the hard charger, but we only have so many laps left in this race. More and more lap traffic is coming in as it filters on through. The 8's going to have to check up. There's 2 lap cars side by side. Looks like the 16 is on that high line. The 12 has to go down and take evasive action. Here comes Frank Nguyen down the inside of the lap machine of the 22 of Brandon Stacy. As we got to the double box right now, here comes Frank Nguyen, the Canadian, looking inside of Wright. Wright's been going backwards ever since the start of this run. Looks like the tires may have worn out on that 12 machine, and aggressively shuts the door, but has to move a little bit. There might have been a slight bit of contact there. Wright's trying to hang tough on the outside. Rodriguez is looking, waiting for an opportunity to pounce. He's left Harbaugh a little bit behind, but these 3 fighting could bring Harbaugh back into the conversation as Jason Owens has been able to gap Frank Nguyen, and now Nguyen is into the top 5, and he's going to get set after that number 8 machine.
Not that far away either, if we're being honest. You know, we've been speaking about this battle before, but Within a second, you've got the 4th place guy. So if Nguyen's got some pace and can drag them all up, what was a 4-way fight can easily become a 5-way fight. And then, to be honest, they're actually not that far away from the podium. So the whole group's still together as we ride on board with Andreas Ike here, who was at the top in the last race I covered back at Road America. He's up there once again, however. Aaron Roos is closing him down, and he'll be applying the pressure now, filling the mirrors full of purple.
The man from the Midwest, taking notes from the Midwest short oval racing and where IndyCar is centered, has been closing steadily on this #1 machine. And it's going to be tough for Albert. We have 15 laps left, so the clock is ticking. And we're going to have to see if that number 10 is able to dive down. They got about 3 seconds back to Jason Owens, which is a decent distance, but anything goes wrong, anything happens to these two up front, it will be an issue. However, we should also point out Ultron Walsh is gone. He is 9 seconds as a full course caution has come out, and that is the 14 of Ken Konska. Not mentioned him since the start of the race. Oh boy, what has the 14 gotten himself into? He's leaving room. That's Harlow right behind him. Another lap car to the inside as we're going 3 wide, and oh, the 14 just cuts down on Matt Harlow and just didn't know he was there. I don't think he knew he was 3 wide going into that situation.
I'd have to agree. I think Ken there, he's turned in going, well, there's plenty of space on the inside for the other guy to move down, without realizing that there was in fact a 3rd car already in that gap. And we see situations like this all the time because it's hard to tell when there's that additional car, so it often catches guys out. This brings out the caution, however. If you want to pit stop, now's the time to do it. If you want to catch a Sheen Walsh at the front as well, now's the time to do it. The gap's been closed in for you.
It's just going to be a matter of how many lap cars are going to be in between Walsh and Ike as they head down into turn 1 on the restart. Right now, the only taker on pit road appears to be David R. Rodriguez. And there wasn't that many people a lap down, so this actually may be a really good strategy from him putting on some fresh rubber in this number 6 machine, as there were only 8 drivers on the lead lap. And you can see from our view right now, there's many of them actually in between number 2 and the number 1. So Walsh might be pretty safe, honestly, depending on how quickly Andreas can clear the traffic.
You're spot on. Like we said on the previous one, the traffic isn't let through. It's not like, say, in Formula 1 where the safety car will take a couple extra laps to allow the field to get into the order it is on the timing screen. No. They follow in the order they were on track. So as a result, although the safety car does close them up, the cars are still in the way. There's a huge gap there. Look, that red and black car at the front, obviously that's your leader. You've then got lapped car, lapped car, lapped car, until in the distance, you see the red and white number 1 of Andreas. He's still not in our picture. He's still not in the picture. He was just in the top corner there. It's, what, maybe a quarter of a lap separates them almost? It's not a small distance.
And keep in mind how many of these lap cars may be potentially fighting for position. The 13, the 5, the 19, the 18 are all relatively close, but right now these are a variety of different lap cars. The one right there, Martin Boomman, is actually 2 laps down, followed by the 13, who's 1 lap down. So again, like, some of these guys are not even fighting for position as well, so it's going to be a big ask from that number 1 machine to try and clear. I think that's a total of 5 lapped cars, and I think he has maybe no, he doesn't have a buffer because he had Roofs right behind him, and then Owens has also been brought up into that fight. So now the fight for second on back is going to get interesting, but I'm not sure if they can clear the traffic fast enough to chase down this number 2.
Remember how good the number 2 of Walsh has been on both of the starts so far as well. It's not like he's been sluggish and might get caught out by one of the back markers behind. He's going to go. So even if you were right behind him, you wouldn't be fancying your chances, let alone when you're several cars back. Although I believe that's Andreas now closing up through the field. It is. That's the number 1 closing in. So is this a dive for the pit lane?
Actually, no. I believe in the last 10 or so laps of the oval racing, they will send the lap cars to the rear of the field. So now goes that buffer, as we did cross that 10 lap mark. So it's 2 to go to green, and the lap cars will cycle to the rear of the field. Everyone on the lead lap are 8 drivers that are on the lead lap. Walsh, Ike, Roofs, Owen, Newen, Wright, Hollabo, and Rodriguez now going to be with each other as the pace car comes in and we go green. Walsh again, fantastic start, but Ike is not willing to give up the fight. He's going to try and hang around. Aaron Roofs right behind. They kind of distance themselves a little bit on the restart so no one can get a big draft, but now here comes David R. Rodriguez down to the inside of Hollabo. He pitted. He has fresh tires, keep in mind. So he might be on a hard charge through the field, and he also has a little bit lighter fuel load as well with fresh rubber. That's going to make him fast. There's a little bit of smoke there. Looks like a little bit of a disconnect maybe from someone further up in the field. Walsh only half a second in front of Ake. Ake is not letting him go. However, he's got Roofs right behind him. Rodriguez now in clean air is going to be able to try and chase down this front group. As you can see, they're really condensed and really getting racing with 7 laps to go.
Rodriguez made that overtake look easy as well. We've seen him being involved in various fights, and they've all been drawn out over multiple laps and multiple attempts at the overtake. That one, he just put the car on the inside and drove by. It was almost too easy, if I'm honest, and very quickly he's traversing the gap towards the lead group. There is your second place guy. He looks like the leader. That's because Ashin is already gone. 1.1 seconds. We're talking about needing to be within about 3/10 to get the move done. So already he's done what he did on the previous get-goes and opened up that space between himself and everybody else. Andreas is now just looking at the mirrors and making sure he doesn't get caught out by Roofs behind.
No, and it's going to get really intense here. Rodriguez is on fresh tires, and a guy who's been falling behind consistently has been Adam Wright in the 12, and he is next in his sights. Roofs has been very quiet. However, he's very content. As you see another smoke there. Looks like just a little bit of internet issues, of course. As the number 10 is now has to play defensive as well. Jason Owen is getting closer, as well as Frank Newen. 3 laps to go as they head down into 1 and 2. Can anyone find a move? The 10 is falling back from the 1 a little bit. Jason Owens is getting closer and closer, maxing out the revs in 5th gear. He's looking, he almost tags the wall, has to take evasive action and let up. That might ruin his opportunity to hit that number 10 car and get around him and get a podium position. But now he has to worry about it behind, as here comes Frank Newen. He's been waiting to pounce on opportunities like this. Lap traffic already again. We still have a total a lot of cars in this field, as Matt Harlable has had to dive into the pit lane. I believe that car might be out of fuel, or he might have had an issue, or just a little bit of a disconnect there. So the 23 now goes to the outside, and that's going to ruin Frank Newen's chances of trying to get further up through this field. As again, another lap car, that's the 20, as we head to the white flag lap. Olsen Walsh is the leader. He's been leading since the start. He qualified on pole and kissed the field goodbye in that number 2 machine as he rounds turn 3 and 4. The British driver of Olsen Walsh wins here at Richmond Motor Speedway. Ike and Roofs round out the podium. Owens and Newen come home 4th and 5th. And it was close and intense action towards the end there, but Olsen Walsh was in a class of his own.
He really was. We've beaten you in your own game. The Brits coming through on the oval racing. You couldn't have predicted that one at the start. Wonderful fireworks there. I tell you what, they're almost better than the ones we set off on Guy Fawkes night a couple of weeks ago. But that race delivered everything it promised. We had action the whole way, and I think most importantly, a deserving winner.
Really the class of the field as we take a look again at the fireworks. All the night races for the ovals have fireworks, and they're always spectacular to view. I love racing at night than the ovals. That's pretty much one of the only reasons I love it too, is getting to view the fireworks after we cross the line, after the fireworks on track. As we look at our results, Olsen Walsh dominated this race, had led every lap in the 2 machine, takes home 1st place. Andreas Eek in the number 1, it comes home 2nd. Aaron Roofs, a quiet 3rd place, but a well-deserved 3rd place. Jason Owens, Frank Newen, David Rodriguez, Adam Wright, Matt Hollabo on the lead lap. Actually, no, Matt Hollabo had a hit late, maybe ran out of fuel, or maybe possibly got into the wall, but he finished a lap down in 8th place. Kevin Smedley and Brian Shriver round out the top 10. Thomas Zeiger, Evan Adams, Martin Bruman, Timothy McFarlane, Grant Malone, Steve Cameron, Mike Harris, Brandon Stacy, Ken Scosa, who had a little bit of an issue, Denny Hogdorn, who hit the outside wall and broke his suspension out of the race. Thomas Torp and Jack Mace were caught up in that early incident on lap 15, and Alex Wist looks like never even took the field. 23 drivers registered for this race, 22 took the field, and we only had one reign supreme. Olsen Walsh reigns supreme here at Richmond. It was in a fantastic race, everything we promised. Intense racing action from flag to flag.
On the bigger picture as well, looking at the championship, Thomas Torp was leading coming into this event. He might not be after it because some of the other guys who are up there competing with him, Frank Nguyen, Andreas Eich, they've scored really, really good points. And yet Thomas Torp didn't really even get to the end.
Well, ovals may not be his best friend, but good news for Thomas Torp is that the next week is going to be at Watkins Glen, which should be a classic track. Something that these machines are built to do, a style of track like that. Only a handful of corners, fast speeds, tons of drafting opportunities, heavy braking zones. It should be entertaining. December 4th. December 4th, excuse me, will be the next one we'll cover.
Yes, December 4th is the next one. The next round these guys do is actually at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, but I'm looking forward to that season finale at Watkins Glen. There's not many tracks in the world that are better than Watkins Glen. It is a true, true classic.
And again, plenty of drafting opportunities. We've seen plenty and plenty of hard action for our coverage from Road America to Interlagos here at Richmond, and then we'll head to the finale at Watkins Glen. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jonathan Burke, joined alongside Tom Davis, our producer Hugo Luis. And we say so long from virtual Richmond, Virginia. Have a good night.